Hi everyone, so this is a video on number 4 from the Unit 1 CBA Review version A. So looking at this one, a couple things to keep in mind is you really do need to pay attention to these arrows. Remember, they represent parallel lines. And we talked about when we did this unit that you really want to kind of extend them because we're trying, ooh, look how great those lines were done. We're trying to get this shape right here. So we've already got the parallel lines. Now we have to pick a line to cut through it. That's the transversal line. Now we're going to have to do it twice because there's a y and then there's an x variable. So obviously I don't want to use them both at the same time. We're really going to be covering up half of it at one point and then doing the other half. So if I start with the one on the left and I extend it like this, so there's my transversal now. It's really similar to the one we see on the right. And the reason I wanted to create that is so I could figure out what type of angles we have. Now I've got a 5y and a 60. Those are the only things that this yellow and then 2 red lines are all coming in contact with. I can't use 8x. There's no yellow line there. Can't use the 120 yet, so don't even try and use those. 5y is in this spot and 60 is in this spot. So looking at that picture over there, what type of angles are those? So hopefully you remember. If you didn't, maybe you should watch the video on questions 1, 2, and 3. These ones are same side interior. They're between the red lines and they're on the same side. Same side interior angles, it's important to know that that's the type because we need to know, are those equal to each other or do they add up to 180? Now looking at the picture, does it look like this is an obtuse angle or an acute angle? And then what about this one? If you compare them, they look like different angles. This one's definitely smaller. It's kind of arching in like this. And this one is more than 90 degrees. So they can't be congruent to each other. Since our only options are congruent to each other or adding up to 180, these ones have to be supplementary, which means they add up to 180. So kind of remember how we built this sort of template here. And then I'm just going to plug in 5y plus 60. So those go in my blanks here. And again, it's because it's same side interior angles. And I know that that type of angle has to add up to 180 degrees. Remember, same side supplementary. That was kind of our trick to remember. From there, it's just algebra. Start by moving 60 over to the other side. Trying to get the y by itself. Then if I divide both sides by 5, let's see, get 24, I believe. Yep. So y ends up equaling 24 for that one. Oops, I want to do erase. So that's how we get our y coordinate. So let's take a look at our x now. Now I know I don't want to use that same yellow line necessarily, but I do have to incorporate my red parallel lines all over again. And I want to pick a line that's going to cut through with my x variable this time. If I use this one, there's no way I'm going to be able to use the x variable. So obviously I'm going to cut through on this side. That line wasn't super straight. And again, if I redraw it off to the side over here, kind of looks like this guy now. But I've got one angle here and one angle right there. Now those are not same side interior. They're not between the red lines on the same side. This time they're on opposite sides. Well, what's that word that we used for opposite? Hopefully you remember the word alternate. And they are interior angles, so they're alternate interior. Now look at those angles. Are they both obtuse, both acute? Is it one of each? And hopefully you remember from just looking at the name, hopefully you remember that this is actually a congruent set of angles. But again, your cheat could be, if you look at the picture, the 8x spot looks bigger than 90 and so does the 120 spot. So they're probably going to be congruent to each other. Alright, so then we're going to fill in our spots. So it's going to be 8x on one side. And 120 goes on the other side. Again, 60 and 5y are nowhere near there, so don't use those. Super easy algebra for this one. Just divide both sides by 8, Little bit of mental math there. And I believe it is that. It is. So x ends up equaling 15 on that one. And let's check our rubric, make sure we did everything. 1 point for the correct equation for x, that'd be right here. 1 point for correctly solving it for x. There's my answer right there. 1 point for the correct equation for y. That's this guy right here. 1 point for correctly solving. And there's my answer right there. So try and show your work. Even if you get it wrong, at least you can get some of these points if you do some of it correctly. So that's problem number 4.